Okay, it's Dr. Stoll here with SimulEYE, and it's been a busy month last month, and did a lot of traveling, a lot of different conferences, and learned a lot from working on different machines and watching different surgeons' techniques and how they performed with the current lens materials. So this is a new blended lens material to be a little bit more dense. I'm going to show that we can, well, here we can rotate it, right? Easily rotate it. I'm going to show that we can sculpt and crack and chop. So we'll start by, we'll do a stop and chop here. We're just going to sculpt through this. As we get deeper, you can see the red reflex coming in. That should be enough to be able to get a crack to propagate here. There's a nice crack. I'm going to rotate and finish that off. There we go. So now we can start to chop this. I like to chop in about sixths or so. Nice vertical chop here. Making sure the pieces are well separated. Sometimes we'll take these down into even smaller pieces. If we want to do a horizontal technique, we can. Just use the other end, slide around the equator, and together and apart. And then we can start removing these in just a moment. So let's go to segment removal. We can show that we should be able to get a good purchase on this and bring it up there as good hold. And then we step down and emulsify. This is a more dense material. Oftentimes the challenge with synthetic materials is that when we go more dense, for chopping and being able to manipulate the lens, then it does get to be difficult to emulsify them. But I think with this blend, we've got a nice balance between those things, where we can still see the lens very nicely. I think the opacity is very good, and we can chop it and manipulate the lens without it crumbling or falling apart, and yet we can still emulsify it. So part of the challenge with emulsification is that this lens is very big. The nucleus takes up the whole bag, so we don't have an epinucleus in the cortex. So these are very big pieces. There's not a lot of room for them to tumble until we start getting some of them out of the bag and making more room. And then you'll see that I'm just doing very little work. The machine's doing all the work and bringing those pieces up and emulsifying them very efficiently. Look over at my power settings here in a minute and see what I'm getting. So this is a big piece here. Let's try this guy here. So as a reference, I'm hitting about 30% now, stepping down, letting it tumble, and there we go. Just gonna pause for 1 second. Okay, so this is a pretty big piece. I would typically chop, kind of sub-chop this, so it's a little bit smaller. But now that there's room for these pieces to tumble around and they've got their irregular edges to them, they do clear, I think, very realistically. I think the way the material kind of dances on the tip and the followability and the way it gets pulled in and emulsified and tumbles, I'm very happy with the performance here. I think it's very realistic. Occasionally we'll push the material off the tip when it's a big piece like that, or if it popsicles. But overall, I think this is great performance. I think we're going to be able to teach a lot of surgeons how to really work with their technique and their instruments in the machine.